Season 5, Episode 11, The Showstopper. I think Bojack losing it in this episode is the show itself taking a stand against the show. It gets so meta here. One thing I really love is that Todd is the ads guy in Filbert's commercials breaks. So it's really like hitting us on the nose with that because he's working for the production company. It's like the goofy stuff is providing a break from the dark content in the show as well as like for the show to us. So it's like super meta there. And Todd is even freaking out that he's the ads guy because he's become self-aware here. And I love that through Diane, we get the writers recognizing their own complacency and being okay with continuing the show even after realizing it's a bad thing, after what Diane did at the end of the previous episode. And then there's this powerful moment where Fritz, Mr. Peanut Butter's character, says, "We're not so different, you and I," to Bojack, right after we've learned he's done this really horrible thing.
Yeah, it's basically like an extra, like a third layer of them beating us over the head with how these characters behave.
The dialogue in Filbert gets so much worse after Diane leaves. The jokes, the constant use of the word literally, and the constant puns. I mean, it's funny, but not because it's meant to be funny. It's funny in the sense that it's not funny.
It's funny because it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me a lot, I don't want to go too much into a sidetrack or a tangent, but there's the other show Bojack worked on, the Bojack Horseman show, which is that show he did after Horsing Around. It's full of these really bad jokes, meta jokes and offensive jokes for the sake of it. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of Filbert, of like the writing in Filbert being kind of bad too. And people, you know, referring to it as like, oh, I only like that show because it was so bad. You know, a lot of consumers enjoy watching things because it's bad.
So there's this moment here, and it's really powerful. It's a dialogue between Gina and Bojack where she says, "It was you." And she, of course, is referencing things he's done throughout this episode, like killing the wife and all the others and making the magazine threat. She's saying it was him all along. But I think it's also like showing that the show itself is the culprit in all of this. And then there's this powerful moment where Bojack is strangling Gina and he takes it too far. He continues to strangle her past the point of just acting.
Yeah.
And while everyone else is freaking out, Flip is like, "Turn the camera back on." And that's such a powerful and like chilling line.
Disgusting line.
Yeah.
No, and like again, this whole season is doing a lot of commentary, right? He even fakes concern. He's like, "Oh no, turn the camera back on." Right? And that's horrible. All he cares about is like, "Oh, we can get this in camera. We can get this in film to use in our show." So like this show is very like heavily criticizing directors, heavily criticizing people in charge of these sets and scenes and the direction and the producing of the show. I think it's very similar to what they do with how the robot ends up being the top executive of whattimeisitRightNow.com. Because in Hollywood, you know, it's full of really gross men at the top. And both these occasions of Flip being disgusting, the robot being disgusting, they're very strongly directed towards Hollywood and towards the industry.
This is also the episode where we get Gina's song.
So good. In this episode, he sees himself face to face with the balloon that has been a thing for the past 2 episodes. I think it's just like symbolism of Bojack actually coming to see himself for what he really is. I would see it making commentary about ego and how ego can be inflated like a balloon. And he's seeing himself as this like fake toy, and that's what he is. And it's just such a powerful moment, I think. If I remember correctly, this is the only season where Bojack isn't being taken care of by Todd, Princess Carolyn, or Diane in any way. By this point in the show, he's basically broken ties with all these characters in one way or another, at least partially. I think there's a few things to be said about that. This is the darkest season for Bojack. He's going through reality issues. He's going through drug addiction. He's trying to cut off his alcohol, that's not doing it effectively. It's just a very dark season for him in general. And eventually he ends up becoming his darkest self with all this, right? He ends up strangling Gina, and we see all that on camera. And, we clearly see him kind of go off the rails this season a little bit. And it may or may not be related to that. It probably speaks about there's people out there who, like people around us, people in the world who need some sort of person in their lives to balance them. Not that Bojack was fully balanced before that, but, the lack of that really made him go off the rails in combination with bad mental health practices like drugs and alcohol and all these, not taking care of yourself. He had 2 accidents, right? Like he had a car accident that was caused by him to get more drugs. And there was the accident on set that happened. So it's been like really intense few months for him. That combined with the fact that he has no real friends anymore really make him go off the rails.
So yeah, all these characters have detached from Bojack. And I think it's significant that Hollyhock comes in episode 9, which we aren't discussing here, but she comes in and she offers to help. She offers to take time off from college to help him, but he turns it down.
Yeah, no, and I think that definitely supports what we're saying here, because like the writers very clearly brought in Hollyhock to explicitly say, I can take care of you, and Bojack says no.
They're making it explicit that he's not going to have any more crutches and any more people who are balancing or taking care of him. And I do think Gina does that a little bit, but that's why they have him strangle Gina in this episode, to make it clear and explicit that literally all of his crutches are gone. The writers want us to know that he is entirely alone now. And it's important for the writers to show that he himself ended his last crutch by strangling her.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because like you could probably argue that most of his relationships with these people, like Princess Carolyn, Diane, and Todd, were severely cut or like hurt by his actions. And, up until this point, they have been, yes, bad actions, but they've been definitely more passive than actually, strangling them. So the writers having him strangle his one last crutch is really, really strong. Like, there is no turning back at this point. This guy doesn't want to get better. He doesn't want to improve.
And that's where we'll pick up next time for our 4th and final episode in this series. Thanks so much for watching. See you next month.